Hey, everybody, I'm Misty Rooks, and this is the Make Me Better podcast. So, my very first introductory episode was a little long. I had a lot to say. I'd been wanting to say it for a very long time, and I had to edit a bunch out, and it was still pretty long. So, I just wanted to do another little short introductory episode to our new listeners and just answer the question, what is the Make Me Better podcast? Well, short answer is the Make Me Better podcast is a project inspired by God that He gave to me and told me to do so that I could share stories from people who went through a trial and then came out on the other side better. As believers, we have God's word to remind us that when we go through trials and we face hard things, that is going to develop our character and help us with our perseverance and give us hope and encouragement and strengthen our faith. And so that's what this podcast is about. So my short story is actually really long, but I'm going to try to tell it in a short way. I had gone through a couple of surgeries, had appendicitis, I had an emergency surgery, and then I had my gallbladder removed and continued to have some symptoms in my body and started having allergic reactions, thought I had alpha-gal, got tested for that, and it was negative. I was missing work. I was at the ER a lot with my heart racing, high blood pressure. I had hives. I had swollen lips, throat, face, just taking loads of Benadryl. I went to see an allergist and they could not help me. I couldn't stay off allergy medicine long enough to get any kind of testing done. I felt like my throat and my chest was so tight. I kept having chest pain, so I kept going to the doctor, but it wasn't my heart, thank God. And so at this point, I was on prednisone, famotidine, Benadryl, and Zyrtec. And I was just on a bunch of medicine several times a day to try to just calm this raging allergic histamine type reaction that my body was having. There were some other little things along the way, but this was the main thing because it started to get so bad that I thought, I can't live like this. What am I going to do? And come to find out, which I had suspected for a while, but come to find out, I had a ruptured silicone breast implant. Those were my gift to myself when I turned 30 years old and I was still single with no kids and stuff. And I'd always wanted to do it, never did it. Finally did it. Then I got married and had kids. And around 2020, I suspected that I might have had a rupture, or at least I was researching breast implant illness, which you could hardly find anybody to say that's a real thing. But it was in 2020, 2021. There was no way I was going to go have an elective surgery at that point and do anything that was unnecessary. So I continued to live with some symptoms until, I don't know, it just seemed like I had the appendectomy and my gallbladder removed, and then everything just got worse. So this used to be my lunchbox that I carried to work every day. I was a teacher for about 20 years. Okay, so also the stress of that was getting to me, but this was my lunchbox, and it ended up being my medicine bag. I had all of my medicine in here just to make it through the day because it was like there was something crazy going on all the time. I was always having a new allergic reaction. And at one point, after I had eaten a hamburger steak one night for dinner, I broke out in hives, like all in the groin area. And I was like, okay, it's the meat. My doctor was right. And one of my doctors. And then I got my results back and that wasn't the case. So there was no rhyme or reason. Sometimes I would wake up in the morning with a reaction. Sometimes the reaction would happen during the day. Couldn't nail it down to anything. So the only thing I knew to pursue was to get my implants removed. And I kept trying to get an MRI to prove that I had a rupture. You could look at me and tell that I had a rupture. Something was wrong. And insurance kept denying it until finally I had to just go ahead and schedule my surgery. Finally got the MRI. Yes, it did prove that I had a rupture, but by then I'd already paid for the surgery out of pocket and had that done. But around the same time that this was going on, there were some other people that I was praying for that were also in like a major health battle and just a crisis. And one person, pretty much, they didn't give any hope that he was gonna make it. And so I'm like praying every day, down on my face, just crying out to God, not only for myself, but for these other people. And I was so frustrated. I was like, why are we not seeing God move? And I want you to know that those other people made a full recovery. And God is good and he knows what he's doing, but I didn't know what he was doing. So what he was doing at that time was he was working something in me. And so even though I desperately wanted to be healed and desperately wanted these other people to be healed and I wanted a miracle, I did not want to have surgery. I did not want to have to deal with the consequences of this thing and walk through it. I just wanted to see God miraculously take this toxic stuff out of my body that didn't belong and fix me. And that is not what happened. So somewhere along the way, my prayer, changed from God rescue me and God give me a miracle to God just make me better. Like once it finally set in, like, you're going to have to walk through this. There are some things that you're going to have to do. I accepted it and I didn't stop believing. It's not that my faith wasn't there anymore. It's just that wasn't the path. That wasn't the answer. I wanted an answer the way I wanted it, and that is not what was happening. So once I realized that, my prayer changed to God, make me better. I don't know what is going on. I don't know why this is happening. I don't know why I'm not getting a miracle because I believe. And, I don't know why, but whatever it is, help me learn something, help me grow, make me better, help me get rid of the things that I don't need, like pride, and help me forgive, and just all these things make me more like you, make me better. And so I had already been thinking of starting a podcast, and I wanted to call it Little is Much Podcast. And I really didn't know what I was going to talk about. I thought I might do some teaching. I thought I might have some guests on, but really I just always thought I would be an author and a speaker. And I was a teacher for my whole entire career. So it's very natural for me to do that type of thing. And so I didn't really have a specific goal for the podcast or a niche, or if you're fancy and you call it a niche. I didn't have that. I just had the idea deep in my heart, like this is something I'm going to do one day. Don't know how I'm going to get started. Don't know when it's going to happen because I'm working and I have a family, but I just thought it would happen. And through this whole process, God is so good, y'all. Through this whole process, because my prayer changed to God make me better, I finally had the name and the purpose for the podcast. So going on from there, things appeared to be better for a little while. Then I ended up getting, after my surgery, I did have surgery. It was successful. They cleaned everything out very well. I was recovering. Had a complication. One side healed very well. The other side didn't. It ended up splitting open one day while I was at work and leaking out all this stuff. I know, TMI. But anyway, so I had to go back and get that sewn up again in the office under local anesthesia. It was bad. So I had another drain inserted in there, and made it through Christmas and then went back to work the first day back in January and was so sick, felt so awful. I went to my surgeon that day for him to remove my drain, and I was like, I think I have a fever, something is not right. And they were just telling me that I had, it was cold and flu season because it was in January. And anyway, I made it through one of the most terrible weeks of my life to that Friday night. I started leaking and it was horrible. The most horrible looking, horrible smelling stuff that I've ever experienced in my life. We happen to be having an ice storm down here in Georgia. So, like we're not handling that well with the roads and whatnot. Spent the next day at the ER and they did not culture it or take a sample to do a culture or whatever. They saw me. They said I'd have to come back for an emergency surgery, but they were done for the day. So come back the next day. And I'm like, what if we can't even get here, at 6 o'clock in the morning? So we spent the night in Chattanooga so we could be close to the hospital. It was a whole deal. It ended up that I had MRSA, which is why I felt so, so bad. I had laid on the couch all week, and I just remember most of the time I could do nothing other than just say, God, help me. God, help me. And that was about the most that I could pray, except for one day. The Holy Spirit just strengthened me to pray for me and another mom at this time who had reached out to me. And I just said, I know that our kids are going to see us get up off of our sick beds and live for you. And they're going to glorify you because they've seen you, heal their mamas. And so anyway, I got through that week. I got through that surgery, went back to work, had to have another surgery because I had this big scar tissue pocket and it kept filling back up with fluid. So then it got very large. It got hard. It was all the way like up here hurting. And so I had to have that removed. That was in February of 2025, I think. So about 3 weeks later, I guess, I went back to work and I finished that school year, and then I quit teaching so that I could stay home and homeschool my kids, and so that I could work on this podcast because I truly believe in my heart that's what God called me to do. So once I finally made it through all of that, I just knew that my purpose for this podcast was to give people a platform to tell their stories and how God made them better. And that's exactly what we've been doing for 1 year now, coming up on 1 year anniversary. And I just want to thank you all for your support. And I love the fact that just when I talk to a guest, just the fact that they're able to actually just get it out, get it off their chest and tell their story is helping them. So if it never helped anybody else, it's helping the people who are on the podcast as a guest. And then it's also, I know just from the comments and phone calls and people stopping me around town and telling me things that people have been inspired. You think sometimes that you have been through a rough ordeal, and then you hear somebody else and you're like, wow, they really made it through something, and it was only by the grace of God. So that's what we're doing here today. Is just giving a platform for people to tell their stories, and it's healing for them, and it's also inspiring to other people so that they can hear how good God is, how faithful He is, how He has never, ever left your side, even when it felt like you were in the darkest valley and He was nowhere to be seen, but also to know that it wasn't all just for nothing, that He's got a purpose. And a lot of times there's a very specific thing that you're going to do after you've made it through your dark season, your winter season of the soul. After you've made it through all that and you come out and you realize that you have been made better, your faith is rock solid now. You have a song, you have a light in you, you have a joy, you have something that you could share with others because you know that you've been through the fire and God led you out of it. And so now you're leading others out. So it wasn't all for nothing. There was always a plan, there was always a purpose, and God does not create bad situations for you to go through, but He will test you. Now, Satan wants to tempt us, but God won't tempt us. He will test us. And I'll tell you, my friend, He already knows how we're going to perform on the test. The test is for us to find out how we will perform and who we really are, and if our faith really is what we claim it to be. So that's the short answer for what is the Make Me Better podcast. And I just wanted to share this with you. Okay, this is going to make me cry. I am a crier. I am a crier. If you didn't know that about me, I am a crier. But this is I thought it was Fisher Price. It says take along. This is a little tape player that I got. I don't know, I was maybe 5 or 6 years old. And last year, when my mom was cleaning out some stuff at her house, she came across this, and I had not seen this or thought of this in years. But let me tell you, this little thing right here was prophetic because I used to sit in my bedroom with this tape player and I would record myself talking. Also, that was the beginning of my songwriting career because I was sort of a tomboy growing up. And one day when I was riding my bike, I fell off and got all scraped up. And I came to my room and I sat down with my tape player and I wrote a song called It's So Yucky Being a Tomboy. And so there you have it. But this was sort of the beginning of things. And I'm so glad that she found this just takes me back. But yes, so if you have a child who loves to record themselves and maybe they say they just want to be a YouTuber, there might be more to it. Maybe you can encourage them and maybe they will be a songwriter one day, or maybe they will host a podcast one day, or maybe they will stand up in front of thousands one day and deliver the gospel of Jesus Christ and the good news. And so oh my goodness, I think I'm going to have to go have a good cry now, but that's what the Make Me Better podcast is. And I really pray over it. I pray for our guests. I pray for every episode to reach the person. You know, it doesn't have to be many, but if it's just one, man, because what does the Bible say? That He left the 99 to go after the one. So if all this work that I do and all the editing and planning and all that kind of stuff is for one person, then it's all worth it. And I just want to say, if you have a dream, if you have something in your heart and you are waiting until the right time and you are waiting until all the pieces fall into place, you might miss your opportunity. If you wait until you know everything there is to start, you won't get started. If you wait until everything is there financially, you'll never do it. And I'm not telling you to quit your job, and I'm not telling you to take a big risk, but I am saying the things in your heart and the dreams and the visions that you have always had for yourself and for your family, for your church and for your community, those did not show up by accident. God knows what He's doing. And if He has told you to do something, then you need to follow through with it. And it may be a huge leap of faith, but you can do it. And you know what? Along the way, there's going to be some rough times. But through that, God's going to make you better. Thank you for joining me for the Make Me Better podcast.